And Lemur, correct me if I'm wrong as I go through these notes. This is just what I jotted down last time. So Anna Marie was going to talk about from the educator's perspective. So that was her take. So she's coming from the educator's perspective, and things that need to be done for educators, understanding roles in the industry, understanding, like thinking of, I guess we'll go for like digital design and visual effects, Lemur, because that would tie in your expertise as well.
Right.
And diversity in the industry, but really talking about computer graphics, digital design, I think, because that's the audience. So Anne Marie's perspective from the educator side was it's so important for educators to understand the different roles in the industry, respect and identify engineers and the artists, understanding the pipeline, the talent pipeline. So that in her mind, that's what educators could do. And then Lemur, you talked about design and design technology and the importance of training, proper training and mentorship, and recruiting. I think you would talk, that's what I have as my notes.
Yeah, and in the pocket of recruiting was the topic that would hopefully bridge over to you in terms of how companies like yours setting up full opportunities for the employees and or team members to have allocations of time to do the mentorship and or to work with the interns and to bridge them into people who can join the companies.
Yeah. Mentor, work with interns. And then my other perspective is from a company perspective, really trying to promote to our audience of educators, to work with the different communities. A lot of companies will support different communities out there. There was a community bit in terms of like thinking of the ones that we support, like Access VFX, Academy Software Foundation, but looking at what companies are doing. Like my advice to an educator would be follow the companies on social media of the tools you use and look at where they're investing to support diversity. So if that's an organization that has a mentor program, or if that's a conference that's targeted towards girls who code, or Black girls who code, like really looking at the different, like understanding your vendors and what they're doing, and to be honest, a little bit of making them accountable. Like if you're going to work with a software tool, make sure that they're engaged in our community too. Something along those lines. I need to formulate my thoughts.
Yeah, I wonder also if there's any aspect of your story around how Foundry decided to engage in this manner, right? Like letting other companies or other people that know other things that they want to have join. How did you make this start and or happen, right? Because I would think some companies, small and large, may or may not have someone like you, someone as an agent to engage, and they just need to, hear about it, and they could make it happen.
Very good.
Yeah. I mean, we're like coming from our software vendor side, we did. And I'm just going to tell you the story because I want you guys to pick up things that might be interesting. Like we formed our own D&I committee. We'd already been doing outreach with this one specific organization, but through our task force, we kind of tried to identify opportunities where we could, being that we're small and we don't have dedicated full-time employees to this, how can we make a difference? And there's been internal stuff that we've done, like we've done in the last year is we've changed vacations. So our holidays, not vacations, holidays. So, if you're to join Foundry, you're free to choose what holidays represent you. So you're not stuck with Christmas. You're not stuck with, right? Which might mean nothing to different cultures. So we have like kind of a choose your own holiday package. What else are we doing? There's stuff that's happening. Like, we're hiring for someone and we decided to remove the qualification for university graduate. Stuff like that, like really rethinking the talent pipeline. And if we want to reach out to people, how do we make our jobs more accessible to a wider pool? But again, and then on the flip side, the other bit was partner with organizations that can support change. And we have, free time. We're allowed to do what we choose to do in order to volunteer or sponsor, like industry, things like that. I don't want to misrepresent us that we're doing a million things, because we're doing a lot of little things.
Yeah, but that's pretty important to tell people and to present, right? That a marathon starts with the first step, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. I always say many little streams can make a river. It's
yep,
just sometimes you need many.
yep, cool.
Yeah, and Anna Marie will be joining us momentarily, so
Okay.
good.
So Lemur, do you want to talk a little bit more about your point of view, and then we can just take more talking notes into it? And then Kevin will look to yours as well.
Sure. I mean, I was going to start with I was hoping for maybe Emery for me in terms of like the bridge of my experience of, being at the college level and discovering a lot of tools, a lot of digital tools, and pushing as hard as I could, but then finding a way to meet some people who were working in fields that I was curious about. And that curiosity led me to striking up mentorship with them and building up my craft. And then I'll probably shift over to what I'm doing today, which is, trying to provide infrastructure for those mentorships and those access points and awareness points to happen, called Valen. And what we're doing with our position as a change agent of note that companies, I can list some of them that we're working with who are trying to open those doors up and making sure that are aware of them, but also ready for them. And I think we could, have me hand it over to you for that.
Yeah. Perfect. So we're okay. So segueing into the current role, and your organization works with companies that are trying to capture that great thing you said.
Yeah, so segueing over to what I'm doing today, which is Valence and its ability to be a change agent for access and opportunity and resources. And we're one of many, like you mentioned, Black Girls Who Code and access to VFX. I want to just kind of run down a little roster of the groups, and make sure that that's a thing that people really are going to go out and activate, right? That they're going to find the org that has what they are, a task force are interested in, and get working on it.
Perfect. And what are some of the companies that you work with?
Hello.
Hi, Anna Marie.
Hi.
Not too bad. Thank you for joining us.
Good. Glad I was able to.
So Jennifer, a few of them are like Snap glasses. We do some stuff with Snap. We do a lot with Silicon Valley Bank and its portfolio of 35,000 plus innovation economy companies that span the different gamut of tech, large scale groups like Wayfair on down to kind of medium to small startups. And we also have the creative industry pretty well represented. So groups like Universal Music and some of the other studios. So pretty broad array of company types.
Wonderful. So Anna Marie, we were just talking about the flow of project panels.
Yes.
Taking notes.
Yeah, I was reading over, I looked at the video of the last meeting a little bit yesterday, and was reviewing what my role would be in there. Is that a good place for me to start with you, or did you want to ask me some questions?
Absolutely. No, go for it. No, go for it. Maybe now you could just sort of give us an update on what path you want to take, and then we can tie them together. I'm just writing everything you guys say.
Right. So I wanted to concentrate on sort of cross-platform, cross-discipline thinking, organizational thinking. So the collaboration between designers, producers, writers, engineers, programmers, and how young people can understand some of that pipeline and figure out and find their way into it, figure out what their place should be. Obviously, that's pretty sophisticated things for somebody who's just late in high school or early community college, but the sooner they get an handle on that, the better. How can we help them to do that? How can we help them to find opportunities, internships, mentoring, whatever, to understand what the pipeline is, not only for how they find their role into it, but to understand all the roles within these different production environments. So that's, if they end up in a situation where they're going to be producing or creating something, how do they know how to decide whether they use Unity or Unreal as a platform? That's really important because that can mess up your entire production. If you get further along and somebody says, well, we built this on Unity, but that's not available if you had used Unreal, you could have done this. So
Right.
learning the communication skills and the planning to make those, you don't have to necessarily know both Unity and Unreal, but you need to know how to know the people that can tell you that, and how to assess who you can trust, who you can learn from, and how to pull all those strands together. That's kind of where I want to concentrate. So understand the collaboration, respect for all the different roles in it, technical, business, artistic, and then figuring out how to blend that and understanding how that can help them through their career. That not necessarily jumping into a niche right away is good. It might be in certain areas of the profession, but it's often very good even with that to make sure you get a little experience and understanding others.
Cool. I'm just writing all that down. So I kind of just added like the call to action from you, because from the educator's perspective is whether if you're talking to students or educators, it's sure you or they understand the roles in the industry you're interested in.
Yes, and the best way for the
Learn
students
it.
to learn is to educate the educators, because that spreads it out to a wider group of students. For us to try to reach all students is almost impossible, but I think figuring out a way so educators can learn and pass it on is really important.
Yeah. So it's like a two-way street between students and teachers, like
Yeah.
learn as you can about the overall space and what you're interested in doing.
Yes, absolutely.
I like that.
And educators can learn from, sometimes students will get in a situation like an internship and they might bring information back to the teacher who's not out on the ground. They don't have boots on the ground. And that's part of why there's such a gap between, sorry, another call was coming in. Why there's such a gap between what we learn in the academic world when you get out into the world. It's like, wow, what a different place. And it's because the teachers are teaching and they're not necessarily trying out and doing everything. So to understand, build a structure, and so that communication is always flowing.
Like that.
Thank you.
And then that segues into Lamar, who's going to talk about like we're talking about the working. So yeah, finding the companies and the places that are agents for change, for access and opportunity. Understanding the opportunities within the industry, whether it's training or mentorship or recruiting. Does that sound?
Yeah, that'll be the bulk of what I'll discuss. But I think there's a little bit of a preamble, which is my story and how being a student as well as being a teacher and instructor, the experience of actually getting people into those positions, what it's like once they're in, and the mentorship kind of relationships and how those have benefited me. How I try to set those things up for others, and then the companies as the third chapter.
I like that. Explaining what to do, what it's like. I guess, from what it's like for a student. Okay. And then I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about how am I going to segue into that? I think for me, it's, every program is using these days, or I shouldn't say every program, I'm generalizing, but a lot of programs in school are using like we provide at Foundry. And my suggestion and advice is for both students and educators to look at what those companies are doing and to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are offered. Sometimes they can feel hard to find, but a good software company or a good technology partner has their fingers in different pies in the industry and supports different organizations and should be supporting different organizations that can act as change agents like yours, like some of the other ones we've mentioned. And really,
has Foundry done any series of workshops or mini workshops and seminars for faculty members at schools or any other industry that you know of, like a series of tools that encourages them to learn about them and gives them demos and samples?
not Not yet, but we're actually
Oh.
hiring someone to do that.
Cool. Good, good,
So,
good.
perfect timing.
Great,
Yeah.
okay.
What about the webinar you guys did back, I think, was it March 25th? You guys did this webinar that went
Oh,
probably to faculty, or maybe it was for students, but you did a pretty deep
we
dive.
do. Yeah, I mean, we do. Like, that's the other thing too, is, it's this, it sounds like a simple piece of advice, but follow your company on social media and take a look. The hardest thing we have is reaching teachers, right? It's like saying, we're doing this webinar, you should join. And they're all like, yeah. And then they're so busy, got so much on their plates. And I totally empathize on that level. So I guess even for the students is follow those companies and like that two-way communication that Anna Marie mentioned is focus on with your teacher. If you see something that a company's doing course, like Adobe does tons of them, Autodesk, Avid, Foundry, Unreal, every player in the space does a series of educational webinars or has tutorial videos, and sometimes educators might not be aware. So I would encourage both students and educators to keep their ear to the ground. And if you're partnering and you're investing in learning a technology, learn about the company as well. What can they offer you?
Right. And Jennifer, one of the terms that I used with you that I think you said you hadn't heard was externships. And that's really a real channel that has to be discovered for industry to start to help train the trainers on how they can integrate some of this stuff into their classrooms. Anna Marie's one of the few instructors I know that is already got her mind set on research and engaging industry in a more organic way, but some instructors just don't know how to do that. So externships are the pathway for instructors.
I heard that before you mentioned. Okay, so I'm talking. So my call to action is don't just use the software. You're going to have this software potentially for a very long time in your career. Understand the company, what they stand for, and basically pay attention to what they're offering, because there might be more opportunities than just a series of tools to use. And a lot of companies invest in a lot of different paths. I also want to say something. The company has the values that support this, but don't want to be too controversial and call people out. I want to stay on.
That's a tough call sometimes, because you're getting support and you desperately need the support, and yet you might be against what you're doing. How do you balance that and play it? It's been the bane of my existence all my life, with nonprofits, with just about everything.
Anybody watches Ted Lasso? That was the whole episode.
Oh, I love that show. Oh my
Poor
God.
Sam, and he stood up for himself. Yay, Sam.
I went from places like PBS stations and the network, who were often pandering so much to a large corporate investor that they were getting far afield of their mission, to being at ABC when they made me do spots for SeaWorld to make it look like SeaWorld was educational programming to fulfill their FCC requirement for educational programming. So from both worlds, it's gonna get
it's tough, and there's always going to be things that I don't want to be too on that, but at the same time I do want to talk about a company. Where do they invest? Where do they put money? What do they do? We all have sponsorship type budgets. Where are they going with them?
Bravo. Well, is it the Coen, not the Coen brothers? Yeah, let's see, the very wealthy. God, there's two brothers, and they have invested in every school.
Is that the Koch brothers?
Yeah.
Those guys?
Yes, that's it. The Koch brothers. Yes, they have invested in CSUN, in almost all of U, and UCLA, the UC system, plenty of private, Stanford, Columbia, Duke. They're all over the place. They've got their fingers in every university. And who knows? Nobody knows that. We're not all investigating those deep, undercurrent, beneficiaries. So that's tough. Lawrence Livermore Labs. You look at who really funded that originally. It's not always the best, and yet look at some wonderful work came out of that too. So that, again, it's the balance. I don't think we can unweave the sweater of some of the underlying, bad investors, but we can be conscious, and we can use our position as educators and other businesses to try to maybe coax them into a different position. That's all we can do, is to try to affect change.
support the companies that do.
Yes.
And, yeah, exactly. And then Kevin, you wanted to talk about, I like that externship. So is your focus going to be, or do you want to straddle students and educators, or how would you like, what approach would you like to take,
Well,
Kevin?
Yeah, my focus is on a role that I'm currently trying to get better at, which is to be a matchmaker between all the things in the spectrum of getting industry, students, faculty, all to create some mesh point where we can kind of connect on one pilot to succeed in getting people better at scaling from whatever success we have and getting students better prepared to engage in new opportunities. So I call myself a community transactionist. So I have to have these little mini transactions amongst a lot of different people, but bring them together so that we can look at what could be a way ahead and giving best practices for other institutions, whether it be community colleges or universities, or even the 10th through 12th grade secondary schools to look at being able to model themselves after these programs. Because that's really what I'm looking to do, is to try and provide more modeling for success and getting people into internships and apprenticeships and mentorship. And I don't know that there's really any one successful model that I've seen yet, especially when you think about diversity, inclusion, and the people that I'm working with in the public schools by default are all kind of diverse and inclusion type of communities. So
I know you've talked a lot about how to network, like that being a big part of it. So if you had to like have one thing to tell the audience, whether it's made up of students or educators or industry, like professionals from companies, what would be your one thing? Like the one message you'd want them to take away from this?
Yeah, I'll take that one, because I have too many to, it's like, I have so many different children. Which one would I really point to as my favorite one? But networking could probably be the most important one. And that's what I think I've accomplished, is how to network all of us together so that we can be on this panel. And that's an example of what people have to do, is get better in their own way of networking to some conclusion that they've brought like-minded, like-spirited people together in the same room to focus on one initiative at a time. So networking is really going to be the thing that I could point to for how I've succeeded in bringing people together, especially through volunteerism.
I like that. And I think, we're not live in person, unfortunately, at Siggraph. It would if we were, because then it's something where you can say to the audience, just being here is your first step. But I actually think just being online and being at virtual Siggraph is a positive step in the right direction. Whether you're an educator or, attending a panel like this, being part of, like, listening to this programming already shows that kind of that interest in learning more and hearing from different people.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that we weren't live, but now I know. Okay, so yeah, this is.
We are live. No, we're going to be live.
Oh, we're going to be live. Okay, so yeah, because I've invited some people to ask questions of us as if they were on the panel, to be interactive and thinking about things that they'd like to do or to bring to the table. Because I really want to create a call to action. I want people to think of this panel as a way to kind of churn the waters, if you will, for people who want to volunteer on something that, we can all point to as a way to network our ideas to conclusion.
So your CTA is, if you are able to mentor.
Yeah, and I was going to say networking is a real good theme, but really everything I do is undergirded by mentorship. And so I think mentorship is the one thing I'd like to speak about, and how people can, become more effective in their interest in learning how they can mentor to an effective outcome.
So are you talking to people are you talking to students, or are you talking to professionals about?
I think I'm really speaking to the adults in the room who
Okay.
want to become mentors and understand what I've learned about best practices of mentoring to mentees and really matchmaking to the two sides to find a way to meet some problems to solutions. And when you're talking about diversity, inclusion, and digital media, I've learned a lot about what not to do and trying to be more effective in getting people to some conclusion that we've learned more about what the problems, the needs, and the potential solutions could be. And so mentorship in digital media for diverse communities is what I'd like to talk about getting better at.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to challenge anybody out there if they have any suggestions or comments or even, problem sets they have with trying to find mentors or how to get their mentees more engaged. I'd love to see if we can find a way at the end to have people share some of the things that their problems they're having in getting a mentorship program off the ground.
Companies or at
Well, companies or really for those educators out there, because that's what I'm not sure. One of the questions I asked Anna Marie over the weekend is how do we get universities, community colleges, how do we get them to understand how mentors can be integrated? Because they have to be kind of introduced to the faculty, to the administrations about how you bring in these people who aren't necessarily speakers or industry, but they're kind of agents like me who come in peace, but have to have some invitation to come in and introduce these things or these ideas of mentorship to, to more rigid environments where do they really know what a mentor is and how can mentorship become a part of the growth of bringing everybody to some end state. So I don't know if a lot of the educational people that I work with understand mentorship in a way where I can actually affect some change and some movement and getting some things done. So mentorship is really a big issue to kind of curate some of the successes that I've had in getting to where I am, especially with the community colleges and the four-year universities, the California State Universities. I wouldn't, be in the position I am today without really failing to learn what are the opportunities to get something done for this even fall semester. So
I don't think that people understand mentorship in the more sophisticated, organized way you're describing it, and we're thinking about it. Traditionally, it's been you almost triple mentor. You had a good faculty member, you took a class with them, and they would take you under the wing. Or the same in a job, you'd get a certain job and one person at that job would like really recognize your talent and go under their wing and help, somebody that you'd leave that job or the school, you could go back to them over and over again for some advice. I still call my teacher from art school and mentor in Connecticut, from time to time when I'm figuring out. So that's something that mentoring is kind of like a partnership, and it's been very informal traditionally, and you're talking about it becoming more formal.
yeah, and it is really almost a science. This is an organization I'll put in the chat box, but I'm still learning how to become a better mentor through this organization who has a tremendous set of tools to help people become more effective in, creating outcomes for mentees, especially people in these diverse communities who really need mentors the most. So mentoring is really a science that I want to get better at so it can become almost like an art form. So I can talk about, and I was going to ask, do we have a chance to do any screen sharing or can I bring any graphics or is it just all talk?
well, honestly, we are less than 48 hours away. So if you have, I'm not planning on sharing anything, but that doesn't mean no.
Yeah, 'cause I have one foil, one graphic. It's kind of a Venn diagram of everything I've worked off of as to how I understand my mission and what I've been doing and what I hope to do in terms of bringing mentorship more formally into some of the things that we
Can you share it with all of us? So
Sure. If I
and
can bring up the graphic.
Anna Marie and Lamar can.
It's a Venn diagram
I mean,
that I've been working off of. Okay, hold on for a second. Let me see if I can find it. If you guys keep talking, and then I'll bring it back in, okay? 'Cause I gotta look for it.
the one thing I have to admit that I find daunting is it's not clear who our audience is going to be, and that's very Siggraph, right? Like we could have leaders, we could have industry professionals, we could have students in this audience. There's no way to know who's going to actually be there in advance, and that's okay. And Siggraph is all about the intersection of learning and technology and industry, so all good. So I'm trying to think for myself, like,
Okay, well,
what
let me give you a little idea of who I've invited. So I invited the California State University and Entertainment Alliance, the people that Jennifer, you spoke to,
Yeah.
Dina and Haley, who run that program for the 23 California State Universities. They have put out the Siggraph, which, you know, gracefully you gave me the password. So we're signing up some of the students that can reach to register for Siggraph. So they've done a call to action to make sure students are aware of Siggraph, register, and then point to our panel on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So if nothing more, we'll have some people from the California State University Entertainment Alliance that I'm asking to ask questions and engage in the panel. So that's part of our audience, the CSUEA. Haven't done that really much for the community colleges, but I'm asking David from Santa Monica to do the same thing.
cool.
So we'll have, you know, at least some representation from those two places.
Cool. So we'll have to let Maya know the sequence. So, I mean, ideally we should have, so I guess she'll introduce and hopefully you're watching this, Maya, so he'll give you a chance to have a think about it. But if Maya, I'm trying to act a little bit like moderator in this, so please tell me to stop if you want me to. But Maya's going to come on. She's going to talk about the challenge. The challenge is that the industry needs more diversity, and how are we tackling this? And this panel of experts includes someone from the education field, someone from the, do I describe Valence more from the community change agent point of view, Limmer? How would you like me to describe Valence? Oh, I think you might be on mute. Yes, you are. You got a little red microphone.
Yeah, that's a fine setup. I mean, we'll unpack it a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, so then we have Limmer, who's coming from the community change agent perspective. Jen's coming from the industry technology perspective, and then Kevin's coming really from the
I'm kind of a community activist. I call myself a community.
Perfect.
Yeah, community transactionist, trying to, you know, bring different communities together to meet one another.
And yeah, and this is going to be our perspectives on steps you can take and things that can be done. Writing this down. I'm going to share this with you guys on email, and then we can riff from there.
Right.
Okay, perfect. I can weave that in. And we're just going to talk about she'll be able to, maybe she'll introduce us. We can talk about our point of views from each kind of label, although I hate to label any of us. And I guess then Maya can start shooting questions out at us as well. Because then I think what we'll do is we'll have our talk, and if it's anything like the other panels, then at the end, there'll be time for a Q&A for 15 minutes. We only really have 45 minutes.
I missed it. What was my label?
Educator. I hate the word label. I'm sorry to label. I didn't even choose the word label. You're beyond labels, Anna Marie.
And Anna Marie, yeah, your backdrop will probably be Wednesday. Will you still be in the hospital bed?
You know, I'm hoping not. Here's the weird thing is that I can't change my back because I don't know how to do that on this. I don't know how to do it on my laptop.
I love it because you're the wounded warrior. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, no. I'm not. I look like I belong in a cabin in New Hampshire reading Michael Powers' Overstory, which I wish I was right now. But yeah, the wounded warrior. My husband wrote about that as a psychologist. That was one of his areas. And the wounded therapist. So I will have a nicer background. I'm hoping to get out of here. I'm hoping to be actually in a skilled nursing facility with quiet, rest,
very intense, focused physical therapy for a few days and not go to my empty new apartment full of boxes. It's like it'll be stressful. But the guy who came in to evaluate me said, I don't know if they'll do that. You're doing too good. Your numbers are too good. You look good. I said, damn, that's like, I've had that in my work life. Oh, you're doing such a great job. Let's throw more work. So, we'll see. I think I'll be fine by Wednesday. I've got 9 o'clock blocked off. I will either be in my new apartment or I'll be in skilled nursing, or I thought what I might do is just book a room at like Carlton and do it from there and have PT come to me.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, if I could, a little bit pricier. I don't know if Kaiser or Medicare will cover it, but maybe.
You'll be like you're at Siggraph LA if you're by the JW Marriott at that Ritz-Carlton.
Exactly. I'll have the ghosts of former Siggraph supporting me.
Exactly. Empty hallways.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point though on housekeeping. So there's a Zoom address for, and what I'll do is I'll put it in a calendar invite right now. I log into the Zoom address because I created the thing. That's the only reason. Stressful, but whatever. I could do it, I'm sure. I'm going to do 15 minutes before to make sure that there's plenty of time. So it'll be 8:45 your times, and 11:45 for Maya and I. You guys all sent me your permission forms. Thank you so much. I was so scared Siggraph would start grumpy with me, so that's good. Did you guys register for the conference?
I sent you a confirmation of that. I thought that I had, but I'll go double check that.
Yeah, my email's terrible. So
Yeah, well, every these days, my CSUN was like not working for about 2 or 3 days. My assistants weren't getting anything. So like I needed that in the middle of moving. By the way, I just realized that I will not be in the new place on Wednesday because the movers are on Wednesday morning to move stuff from downtown to Santa Monica. So no, I'll be somewhere online.
Okay, well, wherever you are,
looking a little bit. Okay, that's the beauty of remote digital technology now.
It's the world we live in. Yeah, so you're all registered. That's good. If anyone needs me to help them, I can. But we shall be good. Signed up. I don't know if it really impacts logging into this. Siggraph told me we all had to register. I was like, fine, whatever.
I'll double check. I think I sent you a document, but I'm not sure if I went through the full registration.
I mean,
Jen,
I would,
anything with the time we have remaining, is there anything that we could point students, faculty, anybody who doesn't know anything about Siggraph at large, ACM? Is there anything that we can be pointing these people to or refer to in the panel so that, you know, because we're like 2 days into the Siggraph panel, but, you know, is there anything that we can do to get people more engaged and understanding, you know, how we're just a small part of this bigger conference going on?
Well, there's a website, but I think we could point them to particular areas that we
Well, this is
recommend
really
that they-
more for the people who have already registered, because what I want to do is tell people who are registered that this is where they can go to get more information or more intel.
That's
about what-
that's on the ACM Siggraph website. They have whole areas for every the about sections. There are different programs. Historical, you can get all of their articles and former
Yeah.
things,
Well,
but we might want to curate that a little bit for them.
Yeah.
What do we recommend?
I think, because I had a couple of students ask me already, well, what should I be learning from Siggraph? And I want to be able to use the panel to kind of point to whatever students are on the panel to where they can go to, you know, get more direction from us as to where we'd like them to go if we could. So from Foundry standpoint, if you were trying to get people to understand what Foundry or what, you know, we would be doing in the future, where would you want them to go inside of Siggraph?
no, it's a good point. It's, I mean, I think we need to decouple Siggraph because we're going to be midway through the conference. So if they're at our session, they've figured out how to navigate Siggraph in some fashion. How well, I don't know, but they've figured it out somehow. But what's next in their journey? I think it depends on what stage they're at, right? Like if so I'm thinking logged on to Siggraph, you're already in that community, it's a good thing. So, I mean, for me, just for the technology bit, for me would be like, I guess if you're a student, make sure you're learning, make sure you're networking, attending any kind of virtual event you can. Please follow Foundry and see the different organizations we support and the initiatives we promote. If you're using Foundry tools, but I would say the same goes for if you're using, game engines, and follow Unity and Unreal and see what they have to offer you, and ask questions and sign up for activities and just be present and be there. And that goes for teachers too.
Right. Well, and what I was really alluding to is like the open source day. Is that still happening?
That was last week.
Oh, so it's already happened. Okay. All right. Yeah, I haven't been following. Is there a career
Yeah.
fair? Is there a career fair?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if Siggraph has one, but yeah, you're kind of like, what do the students do next?
Yeah, because I haven't really been following, quite frankly. I mean, so I knew there was an open source day last year inside of the conference, and I think ASWF did something inside of the conference, but they did. So I thought, is ASWF doing anything for Siggraph?
There's definitely a panel within the diversity summit, which I think is happening on Monday, like today. I'm not sure.
Guys, I gotta go. I'm gonna say a quick goodbye because I gotta deal with stuff here, but I thank you for this. It was helpful to move this along, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.
Thank you, and take care of yourself, Anna Marie.
Thank you. I'm working at it.
For
You
you.
can tell. Okay. Bye. Bye. Take good care, all of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, it's a question, because I think the call to action depends on what their interest is, but there's no one easy, like, this will solve all your problems, this will answer all your questions. Valence, Lemur, do you want to point people to Valence and take a look, or anything there that they can sort of sink their teeth into?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of point people to the events website where they can see some things that are happening on a weekly and even sometimes daily basis. Lots of different stuff, and they can also recommend or kind of request certain topics to be covered through that site. And then there's just a ton of content on the Valence site itself that people can check out once they're actually members. So
I keep saying Valence. It's not a window. I apologize.
yeah, no worries. No worries.
Perfect.
And is there anybody that can take a stab at a press release or some one sheet? Because I would like to get something out to the community colleges to see if there is any way that they can distribute, chances for people to register and to join. Because, again, a lot of the students in the community colleges started today. Some community colleges started today. So if there's a little press release we can get out there about it, maybe we can pick off some people in the digital media.
Yeah, I don't know, Kevin. I don't know if I couldn't pull something together. I don't have the bandwidth, unfortunately.
Is there a press release that deals with the diversity inclusion kind of summit inside? I haven't looked, but is there something that you've seen that's a press release or a one pager?
But we're not part of the diversity inclusion summit.
Okay.
They really goofed up our session. They have this now in the village. I don't know what the village is. I don't understand the virtual Siggraph. I know the in-person Siggraph like the back of my hand is a mystery to me. So we applied for diversity. Then they bumped us to education. Then they started bumping us to birds of a feather. Then they sent me a link. I applied for a pen. That's why it took so long to get this off the ground. I didn't even know if it was happening until like a month ago. Finally, they stuck us in this community area. So I have no clue.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll still try to send out a little bulletin so that we can pick off a few of the folks who have no idea what the growth opportunities are inside of Siggraph and visual effects, but just still trying to be kind of more of a signal caller for all the people who are interested in something that they didn't know about. Okay.
I just don't know if there's a clear, like, one thing to send them to. That's where we could potentially try and make a list of resources. I could take a stab at a one-pager slide and just say, here's some of the organizations we talked about. Take a look. Well, we can lead with Lemurs. We can talk about Access VFX. We can talk
That would be great. I mean, anything that would provide some lost leader for those people that are still awake, are aware that there's something that they can point their students to. Because that's the direction that the California State University people are interested in me taking that role and pointing to some thing that they can integrate into their bulletin board material. So
I'll take a stab and I'll share it with you guys as well as the notes. I'll do that right now. So it's done today. I won't do anything else until that's
especially
done.
from Foundry standpoint, from where you sit,
I think we all have different resources and I have resources and Anna Marie might have resources to share. So I think we just build a one-page PDF that, we can put an email into the chat and say, email us if you want this document. I think we could do something like that.
that would be great, and definitely something that we can use as a leave behind for people who may not understand what they can do next from the call to action, but just to look at a list of
I'll take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Be no means complete, but I think from our perspective, if we share the different resources we know, at least it's a start, and we can go from there. Okay.
I love it. There you go. Okay. Well, yeah. Any more questions, suggestions, comments, anything? Because I just look forward to this to be a really nice exchange, a conversation, if you will.
Just gotta clean my office. It's a mess. My tax papers. You don't want to see that. All right. Thank you for bringing us together, Kevin, and hopefully, we can light a couple of sparks.
There you go. That's all I'm looking to do. Sparks to fire. Okay. All right,
Awesome.
guys.
It's a pleasure working with you guys. I look forward to this.
You
All
too.
right,
Thank you
thank you.
very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.